Convening this morning's joint hearing for the Committee of Tourism and the Committee of Water and Land. For the Committee of Tourism, I have myself and Vice Chair Templo, and for the Committee of Water and Land, we have Chair Hashem and his members and our members. Today is March 20th, 2025. Time is 9 o'clock a.m. We're here in conference room 423 at the Hawaii State Capitol. For the purposes of hearing bills, I'm going to read today's rules. In order to allow as many people to testify as possible, there will be a 2-minute time limit per testifier. At the end of 2 minutes, I'll ask you to please summarize your testimony. Please note that we do have your written testimony. Because this morning's hearings must adjourn prior to floor session, not all testifiers may have the opportunity to testify. In that event, please note that your written testimony will be considered by the committee. For those on Zoom, please keep yourself muted and your video off while waiting to testify and after your testimony is complete. The Zoom chat function will only allow you to chat with the technical staff only. Please use the chat only for technical issues. If you are disconnected unexpectedly, you may attempt to rejoin the meeting. If disconnected while presenting testimony, you may be allowed to continue if time permits. Please note that the House is not responsible for any bad internet connections on the testifier's end. In the event of a network failure, it may be necessary to reschedule the hearing or to schedule a meeting for decision-making. In that case, an appropriate notice will be posted. Please avoid using any trademark or copyright images. Please refrain from using any profanity or uncivil behavior. Such behavior may be grounds for removal from the hearing without the ability to rejoin. First up, we have Senate Bill 1396 SD3 HD1 relating to economic development. It amends the transient accommodation tax rates beginning on January 1st, 2027. Beginning on January 21st, 2027, requires a $20 transient accommodation tax to be levied per night on each furnishing of transient accommodations in the exchange of points, miles, or other amounts provided through a membership, loyalty, or rewards program, and appropriates funds to the DLNR for protection, management, and restoration of the state's natural resources, effective July 1st, 3000. First up to testify, we have the Office of the Governor.
Aloha, chairs, vice chairs, members of the committee. Will Kane, Office of the Governor. We stand on our written testimony and support, and I will be here to answer any questions or address any concerns. I would note also that Attorney General Lopez is here, and she'll be available to answer any questions as well.
Thank you. Next up, we have DLNR.
Good morning, Chair and Vice Chairs and members of the committee. Don Chang on behalf of the Department of Land and Natural Resources. We stand in strong support of this bill. We concur and appreciate the legislative findings of SB 1397, recognizing the connection between economic development, especially by visitors, and environmental stewardship. We are proposing to utilize these funds to support numerous DLNR projects, as well as collaborate with other government entities like OPSD and DBED to support sustainable tourism. Thank you very much, and we are available to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Hawaii State Energy Office.
Good morning, chairs, vice chair, representatives. Cameron Black on behalf of the Hawaii State Energy Office. We stand on our testimony and support. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up, we have Department of Taxation.
Good morning, Kristen Sakamoto, Deputy Director of Taxation. We stand on our written comments, and I'm available if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. On Zoom, we have the Hawaii Office of the Governor, Recovery and Resiliency Unit with comments.
Good morning, chairs, vice chair, members of the committee. Luke Myers, Branch Chief, Recovery and Resiliency Unit. We stand on a written testimony offering comments, available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Department of Hawaiian Homelands in support.
Aloha, chairs, vice chairs, members of the committee. Oriana Leal, DHL. The department stands on its written testimony in support with the noted amendment. Mahalo.
Thank you. Next up, we have the Hawaii Emergency Management Agency on Zoom in support.
Yes, good morning, Chair. This is Don Abiel, Haima Executive Officer. We stand on a testimony on available for any questions. Morning. Aloha.
Thank you. We have Hawaii Climate Advisory Team, Jeff Mikulina, in support.
Good morning, Gwen Yamamoto Lau, representing the CAT. We stand on a written testimony in support. Thanks.
Thank you. Next up, we have Antoinette Davis with Activities Attraction Association of Hawaii in opposition.
Aloha, I've never done this before, Chair, Vice Chair, Vice Chairs, and Vice Chairs. I didn't realize that this bill got modified to be more of a companion to House Bill 504. And that bill we don't oppose or support. So please rescind my testimony in opposition, if that's possible. That's what I've never done before. So
Okay.
apologies.
Okay, we'll see if we can do that. Sorry, I missed DBED in support.
Good morning, chairs, vice chairs, and members of the committee. Jimmy Tokioka for DBED. In our written testimony, I just wanted to point out two things. In section 3, we request the multiple expanding agencies because when projects go in, there's going to be different entities that are going to be overseeing the projects. And then we request that the TAT revenues go into the special fund for these measures, for the projects and for some of the marketing of the state and destination management with HTA. Thank you very much, and I'll be around for questions if you have any.
Thank you. Next up, we have. Sorry, hold on. The Nature Conservancy.
Hello, chairs, vice chair, members of the committee. I'm Dr. Elizabeth Beneshek, representing the Nature Conservancy Hawaii. You have our written testimony, but I will just highlight the recent polling data of a diverse group of visitors that found that 76% were willing to pay an annual visitor fee to protect our land, water, wildlife, and cultural resources. This number increases to about 85% when you look at visitors who have been here more than one time or come back regularly. And actually, 25% of them said they'd be more likely to visit if such structures were in place. In 2024 and 2023, we also polled voters and found about 63% acceptance among them. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Hawaii Reef and Ocean Coalition and Climate Protectors of Hawaii, Ted Bowen, in support.
Thank you, chairs, vice chairs, members of the committees. Ted Bowen, on behalf of Hawaii Reef and Ocean Coalition and Climate Protectors Hawaii, in strong support of this bill. We have an underfunding of our natural resource protection. We need to take care of that. $20 may discourage some customers from coming to Hawaii, some visitors, but what will really deter people from coming is the continued underfunding of our natural resources, because the natural resources are really what people come here for. Sunshine's great, but it's also all the other things. So we need to fund this. I urge the committees to adopt a bill that has a dedicated fund so that the monies are used for natural resource protection only, and that there are grants for community-driven projects, because it's important to bring in the community to make this work on a local level. Thank you very much for the opportunity to testify. I'm available for questions if there are any.
Thank you. Next up, we have Hawaii Green Infrastructure Authority.
Good morning, Gwen Yamamoto Lau. Standing on our testimony in support with comments echoing Director Tokioka's. Thanks.
Thank you. Next up, we have Hawaii Appleseed Center for Law and Economic Justice in support. Here. Okay, next up we have HCDA.
Morning, Chairs, Vice Chairs, and member of the committee, Craig Nakamoto, Executive Director of Hawaii Community Development Authority. We stand on our written testimony and support. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have the Hawaii Ocean Legislative Task Force in support.
Aloha Chairs, Vice Chair, and members of the committees. My name is Hannah Leziak, and I'm here on behalf of the Ocean Legislative Task Force in strong support of SB 1396. You have our written testimony, but just briefly, I wanted to highlight that our task force is comprised of over 120 individuals from numerous organizations, all of which who care deeply about the protection of our INA. And we believe that this measure would provide a crucial safety net for our environment and the climate impacts to come. And I want to be clear that these climate impacts are not a question of if, they are a question of when. And that is what makes this bill so vital. I want to thank you for hearing this measure, and I urge you to support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Maka Gibson, Care for Aina Now Coalition Leadership Committee.
Aloha Chairs, Vice Chair, and members of the committees. My name is Maka Gibson. I grew up in Ewa Beach, but I now call Kaneohe home. I'm a program officer at Resources Legacy Fund, a nonprofit where I lead our environmental equity and justice programs here in Hawaii. We are one of more than 75 organizations that make up the Care for Aina Now Coalition. Mahalo for hearing SB 1396. We stand in strong support of this bill, and we know that's what is most important is that it creates dedicated funding for Aina stewardship and restoration. Next week, I'm going to visit Ka'upulehu on Mokuokeawe for the first time, and I was reflecting on how the tri-weight model is a perfect example of community reciprocity that our state needs to adopt. When we visit our ohana or friends, we always bring a ho'okupu or a gift. We never show up empty-handed. For tourists, we need to apply the same concept. When they come to Hawaii, how can they malama and aloha our aina and give back to our communities? I have an 18-month-old, and I'm pregnant with our second baby, and I want our keiki and our mo'opuna to thrive with our aina and its beautiful and abundant resources. Mahalo for your time.
Thank you. Next up, we have Leah Hong in support on Zoom.
Aloha Chairs, Vice Chairs, and committee members. My name is Leah Hong. I am the Hawaii State Director of the Trust for Public Land and a member of the Care for Aina Now, or CAN Leadership Committee. We support SB 1396 with comments and suggestions for amendment noted in our written testimony. I wanted to echo the Nature Conservancy's testimony regarding polling data. We have several years of polling data from visitors and residents that show broad support for additional fees. In one of the polls, a visitor was interviewed and stated, and I quote, "People who travel anywhere leave environmental impacts on the land. If giving a little bit of money can help mitigate the damage they cause, it seems like a small price to pay." Another visitor stated, quote, "Nothing is free. I'd like to think everyone appreciated the natural beauty of Hawaii." Care for Aina Now appreciates the contributions of the visitor industry to Hawaii's economy. The visitors themselves, like residents, have consistently pulled positively on the additional impact fees that go towards sustaining and managing the resources visitors enjoy. Mahalo for this opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Next up, we have the American Hotel Lodging Association and the Hawaii Hotel Alliance with comments. Not present. Okay. We'll go back and see if they're going to log in later. Next up, we have Tax Foundation of Hawaii.
Good morning, chairs, vice chairs, members of the committees. Tom Yamachika from Tax Foundation of Hawaii. It seems to us that the bill is really merging two unrelated concepts. One is protecting our environment. The second is our transient accommodations tax. We think that protecting the environment is everybody's responsibility, and there really is no need to single out tourists as the means for funding it. So we question whether a hike to the transient accommodations tax is warranted or needed at this time. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. Next up, we have Maui Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. We absolutely deeply care about the environment, and we agree that it is everybody's responsibility. And therefore, we have to oppose this bill to raise the TAT. Hawaii already has a reputation for having the highest visitor taxes of any destination in the world. In addition to taxes on visitor accommodations, visitors are also subject to the general excise tax, which is a progressive tax, rental car fees, and taxes on roads, parking fees at state parks, and other taxes and fees assessed on activity-based businesses, all of which are passed down to the consumer. We have also seen accommodation rates increase, which is impacting visitor spending in other areas, impacting retail, restaurants, activity companies, and more. We are hearing from them that they are struggling to survive, and a higher TAT would further burden these businesses, leading to reduced spending in industries that are very reliant on the visitor industry market. We are also deeply concerned that the impact of this measure can be even greater, particularly with a placeholder for future TAT increases. And that will harm our visitor industry at a time when we're struggling to survive. Maui visitor counts and spending remain low, and businesses are struggling. The proposed increase could further hinder our economic recovery, which is still below pre-pandemic levels and was severely impacted by the August 2003 wildfires. And lastly, we feel the bill is a bit misleading because it does not promote economic development. In fact, it's the opposite. It's placing additional financial strain on visitors, local businesses, and those that depend on these industries for jobs. So we ask that we look at a different way. It's not that we don't want to see more funding go to environmental measures to protect our environment. We know that our environment is part of our economy, but we also are fighting to save jobs at this time, and we feel this is going to put another nail in the coffin. Mahalo for the opportunity to provide testimony.
Thank you. Next up, we have Expedia Group with comments on Zoom.
Aloha, good morning. My name is Mackenzie Chase. I'm here on behalf of Expedia, a family of brands that includes Expedia, Hotels.com, and short-term rental leader Vrbo. Thank you very much for the opportunity to share comments this morning. Very briefly, we are supportive of the proposed investments in natural resources, and we do not object to the proposed percentage increase to the transient accommodation tax. However, we have significant operational concerns about Section 2, subsection F of the bill. A tax that is based on the form of payment is totally novel and would be very challenging to implement. We hope that that portion of the bill can be taken out. And we stand on our written testimony, and I am available for questions. Mahalo.
Thank you. Next up, we have Keone Dudley. Dr. Keone Dudley in support.
Okay. Chairman and vice chairs and members of the committee, I am Dr. Keone Dudley. I created a 1-hour video titled The New Hurricane Threat for Hawaii, which showed on local TV stations 10 times in September. I'm very interested in hurricanes. This bill originally started off as a bill that was going to support resiliency, which would include hurricane preparation, and somehow it got shifted and wound up trying to protect the environment. I strongly support the protection of the environment, but we need to also have protection for people first. We don't have a single hurricane shelter that can withstand a category 2, 3, 4, or 5 hurricane. The sole reason we don't have any hurricane shelters is because there have never been funds for them or funds for an office to administer them. Section 3 of this would allow for that kind of thing. It could have hurricane shelters. It could fund the fortifying of hurricane shelters and building of new hurricane shelters that could withstand Category 5 hurricanes with winds of 200 miles per hour. They're coming. To get started, we need $100 million for the first year of the same, and the same for the second year. We also need in this bill to have something that says beginning in 2026, all new buildings and all new public buildings and school buildings that can reasonably be used for hurricane shelters shall be designed to withstand Category 5 hurricanes with winds of 200 miles per hour and shall have interior passages to bathrooms. Winds get stronger and stronger as you go up the hill. And so we need another paragraph that talks about homes. Homes in the 130-mile-an-hour wind zone and below need to be built to withstand Category 3
Dr.
hurricanes.
Dudley, please summarize your testimony.
Okay, and just to wrap up, we need to get to start supporting people things, saving people. And this bill is the last chance, the only bill that's still alive. These things need to be put inside of it. I thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up, we have Sam DeRios in support on Zoom.
Hi, thank you. I stand on my testimony. It echoes a lot of what has already been said in strong support of this bill. I will say it's everyone's responsibility to protect the environment, and that's why no one's going to do it. It's called tragedy of the commons. If it's everyone's kuleana, no one's going to pick it up. We need a kind of concerted, delegated effort to do that. Regarding the funding of, like, it's a small risk to add a $20 fee for tourists. They're still going to come. We've polled the visitors. They said they still are going to come, even though the $20 is a little bit more. They're still going to come. It's a huge risk not to do anything. Look at what happened with Maui. I can't remember who it was, but someone said, oh, we're struggling right now. Yeah, because of the Maui fire. Why? Because we're not funding efforts like this. And this is going to keep happening, and it's going to get worse and worse and worse. I can't believe we're going to ignore the huge elephant in the room, the huge risk we're taking year after year after year not funding this stuff because we're worried about a $20 fee that's really not going to do anything. It's not going to prevent any tourists from coming. And even if it does, it's such a small amount. Yeah, this is just such a no-brainer, and I'm just aghast that anyone would be opposed to this very common sense no-brainer. Thank you for letting me testify. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Next up, we have Resource Legacy Fund, Jocelyn Herbert.
Aloha, good morning, chairs, vice chairs, members of the committees. My name is Jocelyn Herbert, testifying from Hawaii Island today on behalf of Resources Legacy Fund. Thank you for hearing this bill and taking the time. We are in strong support of this measure because it provides a durable and dedicated funding source that Hawaii agencies and community groups need to do the work, including growing Hawaii's workforce to reduce the impacts of increasing wildfires, floods, and coastal storms on our communities. And it offers visitors an opportunity to contribute to this natural resource stewardship and restoration work. As you've heard, Hawaii is facing an urgent $560 million annual shortfall to fund the needed natural resource stewardship work to safeguard our communities. You've heard about the polling that has been conducted and the visitors' willingness to pay. 85% of repeat visitors, who are some of the visitor industry's most important customers, are willing to pay for this. 1 in 4 visitors polled expressly said that they would be more likely to visit if they could pay to protect and restore land, water, wildlife, and cultural resources. Hawaii really cannot afford to wait any longer to create new funding like this to address these needs. We urge you to pass this bill. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. Mahalo.
Thank you. Next up, we have Kua Kevin Chang on Zoom.
Yeah, aloha. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say aghast as part of their testimony. That's pretty cool. My name is Kevin Chang, Executive Director of Kua Aina Ulu Awamo. I just wanted to bring your attention to our suggested amendment to assure that communities receive a share of these funds in caring for our environment. Kua facilitates statewide networks of community-based natural resource management, helping to empower them and get them the partnerships and the resources they need to do the work. And that really is all about creating a collaborative citizenship around our environment, which I think everyone has talked about. Mahalo.
Thank you. That's all that we have signed up to testify in person or on Zoom. Is there anyone, we'll start with in person first. Is there anyone else in person wishing to testify on the measure before us? Yes. Please, Madam Attorney General.
Good morning, chairs and committees. We did not submit testimony on this version of the bill because there are no legal problems with it, and that's usually what prompts us actually submitting testimony. The reason I'm here today is because I wanted to just use as a reminder the work that the Fire Safety Research Institute did following the Lahaina fire. After 18 months of objective evidence-based research, they provided the state with priority recommendations. Land management is within those 10 priorities. In addition, they recommended that we revise our fire marshal bill and enter into a contract with Hawaii Wildfire Management Organization. We have done both. The bill is running through the legislature. We have entered into a contract with WMO. The important part about that is a key part of their responsibility is working, being a leader and working with all the state organizations that already have responsibilities with respect to land management and fire protection. So I think this bill is very important. It won't just be visitors paying for this. The state has already put in significant investments. The counties are putting in investment, and we support this bill for those reasons. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Attorney General. Is there anyone else wishing to testify? Yes, please come up and just state your name and your position on the bill.
Aloha. My name is Caroline Anderson, Interim Chief Administrative Officer for the Hawaii Tourism Authority, and we stand with comments in support of this measure. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to testify in person? Okay, we're going to move on to Zoom now. Is there anyone on Zoom wishing to testify? Oh, wow, none. Okay, got a really good, robust session. I'm going to start with, should we just take questions all together as like two committees? Or I feel like a lot of questions are going to overlap. So we're going to take questions from anyone. So does anyone have any, members have any questions right now that they would like to pose? Yes, Rep. Iwamoto.
Thank you, Chair. This is for DOTAX. So the collection of fees, the way that these, I guess, mileage points or frequent loyalty points are used, it's usually all digital. Therefore, why is the start date in January 2027? Couldn't we, given the digital nature of it, couldn't we implement it and start collecting as of January 2026?
Yes, I'm not sure how the start date came about. Our testimony just reflected the fact that we would be able to put that part of the tax collection on the forms as of January 1st, 2027. As far as whether we would be able to do that January 1st, 2026, we could put it on the form in that time frame. Enforcement is really kind of the tricky issue for us, which is a back-end compliance issue. But yes, I do believe that we could work with a January 1st effective date.
Thank you.
26.
And then I have a question is there any one representing the hotels in opposition to this bill? Maybe it's the Priceline or Hotels.com. Is it Expedia? Sorry.
Was just submitted comments.
Comments.
But you can ask the question to them.
Okay. Are they still there?
Yeah, they're on Zoom.
Yeah, I'm here. I represent Expedia, which I don't represent the hotels themselves. I represent the online travel agency.
Okay. You may be able to answer this question. When somebody does redeem these loyalty points for free night's hotel stay at the resort, would they be charged a resort fee like any other guest? Usually.
So, yeah, I believe so. So I can only speak to Expedia's rewards, which is called One Key Cash. And in that model, it wouldn't impact a resort fee collected at a hotel. And One Key Cash also does not reduce the collection of transient accommodation tax either, because transient accommodation tax is calculated before One Key Cash is applied.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any other question? Yes, Rep. Shimizu first, and then Rep. Ichiyama.
Thank you, Chair. I didn't catch the testifier in the blue dress over there. Yeah. Can I ask you a question? Were you the one who shared the polling information that was very favorable?
Yes.
Could the committee and myself get information on that? That was very
yes,
helpful.
we have a memo that we can share that has all the information.
And what was the basis of that polling information? Could you give me some reference on the specifics of that polling?
Like the results or?
Not the results, but how was it conducted? What was the sample size? Who was the demographics? So on and so forth, just to get a better context of
Absolutely. I'm
numbers?
happy to share all of that information. We do have, this was a survey that was conducted by an outside group, FM3, and I don't have the information in front of me. I might have it in my bag, but I am happy to share it.
Okay, thank you. I would be happy to receive that too. Thank you.
Yeah, if you could send that to me too. I just kind of want to see what the question word by word says when you were polling. I think that's important for us to know. Thank
Absolutely.
you.
There's several questions that were asked, and we have, the visitor one was the one that was done this year. I'm
Okay.
happy to share that information. Yeah.
Thank you.
Chair, I have another question, or I can go after Rep. Ichiyama.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. I have a question. I'm not sure who to ask this to. Maybe DLNR. This is regarding trying to get a better understanding of the current TAT taxes and trying to identify what percentage of that money does go currently to the mission of protecting, managing, and restoring our natural resources.
I'm going to let DOTAX act.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry, I asked the wrong person. Thank you, DOTAX.
Hi, I'm trying to pull that information up. Currently, trying to think of the section. There is an allocation of TAT revenues in Chapter 237D. So I do know that there is funding that goes to the Mass Transit Fund, and then there's a bunch of other special funds. If you just bear with me for a moment, I'll try and pull up that statute for
No,
you.
I'll bear with you, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Convention Center, I think there's some to the, do you have this?
The tourism emergency fund is one of them.
Sorry, I know that's a hard question, but I appreciate your accuracy.
Here we go, okay. So the remittances are in 237D 6.5, and I mentioned the Mass Transit Fund, and we also have the Turtle Bay Conservation Easement Special Fund, the Convention Center Enterprise Special Fund, Tourism Emergency Special Fund, and Special Land and Development Fund. So 1.5 million to the Turtle Bay Conservation Easement Fund, 11 million to the Convention Center Enterprise Special Fund. There's an allocation to the Tourism Emergency Special Fund that needs to maintain a balance of 5 million, and 3 million to the Special Land and Development Fund.
Is that information that's available to the committee also?
Yes, I can provide this after the hearing, but it's also in statute. I can
All
provide
right,
it to the committee.
Thank you. I yield. Thank you, Chair.
Rep. Ichiyama?
Deputy. No problem. Thanks so much for being here this morning. I wanted to get I have a couple questions. One is about your testimony, and I think you highlighted the difficulty in being able to understand how many rooms are currently being booked with points or miles, because that's not information that you currently collect.
That's correct.
So in order to, I guess what I'm trying to understand is, in order to enforce this tax, what would you need to do?
So we're still trying to figure that out if this bill is passed. But our understanding is that points can be used in various ways. The hotels themselves offer points, as well as third parties that you can book through. So it would require an audit and assessment of the hotel's records, as well as figuring out which companies deal with the hotels to provide points for bookings, and probably working with those third companies as well, looking at how these, I think part of the issue is we don't fully understand all of the ways that these transactions take place. So it would require us to look at all of the records from all of the players and figure out how money is being transferred, how points are valued, things of that sort. So yeah, we're still trying to figure it out, but it would require some record review.
And I guess I'm also curious, right? So hotels charge different rates for different rooms. There's a government rate, there's a rack rate. There's, right, if you're you're this kind of member, you get this rate, right? You're a gold member. So when you're trying to calculate the TAT on rooms that are booked with points, which rate should you use?
So I think if there is a monetary transfer for points, that would be an easy case. But as you mentioned, there are different valuations. And if points are being exchanged and no money is being exchanged in that transaction, we would have to figure out and possibly may need administrative rules to determine the value of the points and at which point of time that they will be looked at. So yeah, these are things that we would need to figure out.
Okay, got it. And then I'm not sure if you had a chance to review the testimony from the hotel industry, and they're supporting a amendment to this bill to do a tax on cruise ships.
I haven't seen the testimony, but I have heard that idea being floated around.
And has TOTAX looked at how they would be able to administer that kind of a tax?
So it depends exactly on how the tax is going to be imposed. So we can ask almost, I guess, yeah, if it depends on whether it's going to be per room or on another type of fee. We can certainly ask the cruise ships to report those amounts on the form. But similar to the points, there's going to be a little bit of back-end work for us to figure out how to enforce compliance depending on how the tax is imposed.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Rep. Holt.
Thank you for the governor's office. Thanks for your testimony. And, I do agree that, maybe the increase in the TAT might be easier, as just noted, it's, different hotel rates and such. But being with the current version of the bill and noting maybe problems with collecting on just the points, and with, protecting the environment being such a great challenge in front of us, would you guys be supportive if we just applied this fee to everybody, whether they're using points or not points, and just, a blanket fee across the board to...
Like the $20 fee proposed in the bill, or the
the $20 fee.
I mean, I think we are absolutely, the governor's absolutely supportive of applying the fees to our visitors and this industry and all these areas across the board, right? We all feel the effects of all these things that we're trying to accomplish in our state. So, as a person mentioned earlier, GET and all these things on tourists, we all pay those things, and so I think to apply that. Holistically would be a good idea.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Members, any other questions? Oh, Rep. Bellotti.
Either for Attorney General or if someone from Department of Transportation is here. I don't know if they submitted any testimony.
The Attorney General's here.
Attorney General? Good morning. And I apologize for stepping in right as you were wrapping up your testimony. Can you speak to the Navahini settlement and how that's structured and how maybe the funds generated from this measure will go and support those, the obligation that the state has incurred now that we've settled in the Navahini suit?
I don't know those details, and I would let Director Sniffen provide them. Having said that, I believe that the way it's structured at this point, Director Sniffen was able to incorporate many of the settled facts within his current operating process. So for instance, there'll be a new climate advisory committee. That's not going to cost any money. So we didn't settle, there are no specific monies in it. Everything is going in, I think, into the DOT operations.
And then if we're seeing federal cuts at the at the federal level, what are the plans? Because I view this as an important measure, a difficult but important measure to be able to raise revenues at a time when the Navahini settlement is far looking into the future and is going to require huge investments and investments that we all need to share in the community to address climate change. So what is from what you can share with us, and maybe again it's something for Director Sniffen, but what are the plans? Because this to me seems like a critical measure to do that.
Okay, so I will say that Navahini alone is not what is going to be costing money. I mean, the state has had a zero emissions goal for a long time, and so what the Navahini plaintiffs were requesting was pretty much within what the plan has been for the state. So, but you're right, there's going to be a lot of investments. I don't know how Director Sniffen is working on it, but I will say, and I think this is public, that the governor has directed all of his cabinet to go through our department's budgets, identify what federal funds we get, which employees are paid through federal funds, and to prioritize those programs and employees so that in the event that federal funds are reduced or completely withdrawn, that we will be prepared to start making decisions about how we need to proceed.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions from members? Rep. Hussey?
Could I please have the Department of Taxation? Thanks very much. I wanted to get some kind of rough numbers, if I could, from you on how much are we currently collecting from TAT? And what is our estimate on what additional funds we would be collecting through this fee as currently constructed in this bill?
Let's see here. So for fiscal year '24, TAT collections totaled $828.3 million. The bill has the TAT increase currently blanked out. However, I believe the governor's office is proposing a 1% increase. That would increase revenues by $43.5 million, which is the half year for fiscal year '26, and $90 million for fiscal year '27. The $20 per night room on tax, we estimate $80.8 million, but again, that's based on assumptions. We lack reliable data, so that is our estimate, but we're not certain that that would actually result in that amount of income.
Right. And if we were to spread that $20, if we were to apply that $20 fee to everyone, let's say we have 10 million people coming in, am I correct in assuming that's like $200 million in additional revenue?
I don't have that figure available. The $20 is just based on transactions booked with points. For every visitor booking a transient accommodation, I would have to check with my team for that revenue impact.
Okay. Thank you.
Members, any other questions? Seeing none, Chair does have some questions. Can I have the DLNR come up, please? Okay, so, some of the testimony is asking for that this money be deposited into like a special fund for these projects. Does DLNR have a list of climate mitigation projects or that is already in the pipeline and a rough estimate behind that, how much money is needed to fund them?
Thank you for the question, Representative Chair. We actually have provided a list of about totaling close to $400 million in projects, maybe a total of about at least close to 100 projects that we're ready to move with. We do have them separated in what's climate mitigation, what's environmental stewardship, as well as sustainable tourism. But we have projects that are ready to move forward in this as soon as if you are able to pass this bill.
As the bill is written, if we raise it by 1%, will that generate the $400 million you need, or?
Not at this time, but it will provide us the opportunity to get started on many of these projects. I mean, we've got a priority list.
Okay.
We know that we may not be able to do everything at the same time, but we do have a priority list of projects that need to be done, especially whether it's fire mitigation, fire suppression, or whether it's beach nourishment.
Mm-hmm.
For example, Waikiki, Ka'anapali, those are some critical areas that need to be taken care of. So those are some of our priority projects as well.
So at the end of the $400 million, when we get to that point where we fund all the $400 million, all these projects, what can we do with this addition? Because I'm assuming that this increase would stay.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
so we
Will it
appreciate
continue to
it'd be a dedicated source of funding. This is just a list we put together for the year FY '26-27. We have got deferred maintenance. We've got other projects. I don't believe we would be lacking in any projects to utilize all of the funds that we receive. I mean, we've got 1.3 million acres of forest lands that we maintain, 3 miles of ocean waters, and everything in between. I am confident that every year we could spend in excess of whatever's generated in this fund.
You.
Was that convincing? We will. Don't worry about the spec, but I'm
Okay.
extremely confident, and I've got Will here, he's going to put a rein on me, but, no, we have had, DLNR, I greatly appreciate everybody that's here who has supported this and recognized that DLNR has been, we lack the capacity and been underfunded. So there's an enormous amount of work that we could do, including opening up more trails, including making more state parks available. So there's a lot of opportunities for us, not only to maintain and operate what we have, but also to increase opportunities for visitors to enjoy and visit our natural resources. But we just don't have the capacity to open all of those at this time. So this fund would really help us do that.
Thank you. Can I have the governor's office representative, Will? According to the Hotel Alliance's testimony, they mentioned about tax equity and that they mentioned that the cruise line industry is not paying into this. Is the governor supportive of us implementing a TAT onto that industry?
Yes, I think the governor is supportive of raising revenue for these projects, and if areas that previously were not assessed these taxes, then they should be, yes. And this should apply across the board. Cruise lines, short-term rentals, anyone that's providing these accommodations in our state from visitors or some Kamano like, they should be assessed.
Unrelated question now. As you know, homeowners insurance is skyrocketing, and part of that is climate mitigation and disasters. If this were to pass and we dedicate this fund towards these projects, is there a potential that it minimizes risk for the insurance companies to lower rates for regular average people in Hawaii?
Oh, absolutely. So thank you for bringing that up. So that's a good point that really hasn't been discussed to this point. All of us are facing these escalating insurance costs. And, one of the things that came out, and the Attorney General references, is, our underfunding of our, physical and programmatic support for these projects. The Insurance Council has weighed in previously on other bills. We have looked at this. If we are able to demonstrate to the insurance companies that the state is making that investment across multiple areas, it's going to, hopefully lower, but at the very least, stabilize our markets. So our homeowners and our residents can, catch their breath on these escalating increases. So this is another key component of showing the state's dedication to these funding mechanisms.
Thank you. I do have a question for tax department. Thank you. So I want to go back to this cruise industry topic. Does the cruise industry, can you kind of just briefly go over what the cruise industry currently pays in terms of fees going to our general funds or Department of Transportation that we collect as a state?
I'm not certain about all of the fees that they pay over. I do know that there are docking fees that are handled by the Department of Transportation that are paid over. Aside from that, I do know that TAT is not imposed on the cruise ship, so we do not collect TAT from them.
Okay, thank you.
Let's do that.
Attorney General, please. I'm sorry, I have a lot of questions.
That's okay. I was just very excited. The Ninth Circuit issued an opinion today on a California case upholding their ban on large capacity magazines for their firearms, which is very exciting for Hawaii because our bill has been held in abeyance while that was done.
As a Waikiki rep, I'm happy about that.
So anyways, I was happy.
Do you see any legal issues if we were to impose a tax on the cruise line industry if they were to dock on our piers?
That is absolutely not a question I can answer right here now. I'll need to research that and get back to you, but I'm happy to do that.
Not a problem. Thank you so much for your time.
Okay.
Members, any other questions? We're gonna move on to our next bill. I do want to know that I forgot to read the summary of the testimony. We do have 40 individuals and organizations in support, and about 174 in opposition, and 9 with comments. So we are gonna move on to our next bill. Completely forgot that we even had a next bill. Senate Bill 439 SD1 relating to fees. It requires the Board of Land and Natural Resources to adopt rules to impose user fees that apply solely to non-resident visiting state parks and trails as selected by the board. First up, we have DLNR with comments.
Thank you very much, chairs and co-chairs and members of the committee. Don Chang, on behalf of the Department of Land and Natural Resources. We do support the intent of this bill, and we've provided comments. Actually, we greatly appreciate the legislative support for state parks. It's one of the few divisions that can generate revenue. But we are currently doing most of actually, almost everything that's on this bill, except that we are not doing annual, or are not doing increases on this pursuant to the CPI. And we are currently looking at right now to implement, going to our land board to implement a seasonal surge pricing comparable to what airline and hotel industries do, as well as we are considering implementing a dynamic pricing model. So we are taking into consideration the comments that we've received from the legislature regarding increasing our park fees. We currently charge $5. We are doing an assessment of all state parks. So we are, we are actually doing everything that you have in this bill, and we are addressing the one item that we are currently not doing. And I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Kevin Chang Ulumo Aomo. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. Kevin Chang for Kua Aina Ulu Aomo. We just stand on our testimony. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Activities and Attractions Association of Hawaii.
Aloha, Antoinette Davis, Activities and Attractions Association of Hawaii. Chairs, vice chairs, we oppose this bill. The DLNR parks are underfunded in all their divisions. We support getting them money, provided that there are fiduciary accountabilities attached to them. Currently, parks have done a very successful job at paid parking in several of our facilities. And I would suggest, instead of having an entrance fee for visitors only, to actually have something where you increase parking fees, which I think is what Chair had suggested as well. I have emailed chairs and vice chairs. We supported, like, the stewardship with DAR, the dollar per passenger on the charter boats. We have a history of always supporting these kinds of things. We have fought for a long time to get financial information regarding our small boat harbors. Finally, that as of fiscal year 2025, that is now on their website. And I would really like you to look at that. There are problems in the finances with DOBOR specifically. So that's it. Thank you so much. We are opposed to this bill. Aloha.
Thank you. Next up, we have Tax Foundation of Hawaii.
Thank you, chairs, vice chairs, members of the committees. Tom Yamachika for Tax Foundation of Hawaii. We've identified a constitutional problem, and we've mentioned this in testimony before. There currently is case law made by courts saying that you can charge a fee to people entering a park if that fee and make the fee for like non-residents only. If you make that fee available for that park's upkeep. So we do that at Hanama Bay. That's fine. We do that at a few other parks. That's fine. But once you start mixing and matching the entry fees and use them on other parks and other places, it looks like a differential tax. And if it's a differential tax, we have a privileges and immunities clause problem, because the U.S. Constitution says that we as residents of the United States of America are allowed to travel freely among the United States of America, and a differential tax on park access would seem to violate that. So I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. That is all that we have signed up to testify on the measure before us. Is there anyone starting in person wishing to testify on Senate Bill 439? Please state your name and your position on the bill.
Thank you. Ted Bolden for the Hawaii Reef and Ocean Coalition. I have comments on the bill, and that is that while it certainly is meritorious to have funding for the parks, I want to emphasize that it's not just the parks need help here on the environment, and so this bill is no substitute for 1396 or House Bill 504. We need something broad as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to testify? Anyone on Zoom? Okay, I guess that is all. Chair does want to note that we have 6 testifiers in support, 1 in opposition, and 3 with comments. Members, any questions? Rep. Shimizu.
Thank you, Chair. I have a question for DOTAX, please. Thank you for being here. Appreciate your testimony and your availability. Question is, the 10 state parks that currently charge, do we know how much income that we generate from that?
Sorry, we actually didn't submit testimony on this bill. I'm not sure about the fees that are collected. Is that a-
Okay, I'm sorry,
DLNR.
can I ask DLNR then? Don Chang, please. So the question would be the 10 parks that we currently charge, how much are we generating? And then for the additional 5 that we are targeting, how much additional would we be generating?
Representative, I apologize in advance. I should have anticipated that question. I do not have the specific amount. I have we can get that information for you on the amount of fees that we do generate. Yeah, so I'm sorry, I don't have that information.
Okay, thank you.
I apologize.
No, okay, thank you, Chair.
Members, any other questions?
So
never mind.
I've got here Pi'ikea, who's with our state parks, and she's indicated that what we did try to anticipate is what would we generate for the 5 parks, and I think we've estimated it at $10 million. So sort of in general, we're looking at maybe 5 million. No, yeah. Why don't I just have her come up here and then I don't have to fumble my.
I should have anticipated that you would have asked that question, Rep. Pi'ikea Tomzik, DLNR State Parks. What I did anticipate and we worked on was what the additional would be. And so in the quick time that we had in the turnaround as we were discussing it, I asked our property management section what their current fee schedule is, choose the most conservative, which would be the lowest one, calculate what your total was for that, times that by 5 parks, and the number they gave me was around 10 million would be the additional increase.
And that's for 1 year?
That's for 1 year, yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Members, any other questions? I have a question for DLNR. We heard the Tax Foundation say that this is probably unconstitutional due to just how to distinguish. Do you have any thoughts on that, whether it is constitutional or not?
So I'm not going to render a legal opinion, but we believe that it is constitutional. We have tailored our rules around the Haunama Bay case. And so we believe that this is, we've been doing this for 5 years. It hasn't been challenged. and we believe that it is constitutional
Like for non-residents?
for non-residents.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
How do you do that? Like, do you
Well, so
just
they
like check their
park, they
ID?
pay, they do a parking reservation, so they go online and they book a ticket online, and then they also pay for parking. So residents do not pay for an entrance, nor do they pay for parking. We reserve stalls for residents, but, and I do want to comment, there was a comment about, where that fee should go directly to that park. Fees do, but it also supports all of we have 55 parks. Many of our state parks will not generate fees. It's primarily where local people go, and it's very small rural areas. So the fees that we collect go into our special fund, which helps us maintain and operate all of our state parks.
And you don't see that being challenged if like.
No, it
okay.
hasn't been, and we don't, no, it hasn't been.
So you mentioned that this is something that you can already implement. What was this part that you said isn't something
It
that
is,
you can implement?
under the bill, it is section, is it E? No, section
Section E. is it?
excuse me, it is A3. Any user fee established pursuant to this section shall be adjusted over time for inflation based upon the consumer price index in Honolulu. And that is similar language to what we have in we have an ocean stewardship fee. Embedded in that statute is is reference to the CPI. So we don't have that in this bill, currently, and that's what you're proposing in this legislation.
Okay.
But we are also trying other methods, price indexing? Yeah. So we are trying other forms of increasing surge pricing, seasonal increases, and I think, what was the other one? So we are trying other methods to increase fees. Thank you.
Thank you. Any question? Any other questions? If not, we're gonna go into a brief recess. Thank you, members. We're trying to get quorum right now. So we will reconvene at 11:30 a.m. here in conference room. Oh, I don't even remember what conference room. 423 at 11:30. Thank you. Recess.
Aloha, everyone, and good morning. Thank you for convening for the hearing on the House Committee on Tourism. Today is Thursday, March 20th, 2025. Time is 10:20, and we're here at Hawaii State Capitol Conference Room 423 for the purposes of hearing 3 resolutions. I am Vice Chair Templo. I will be convening today's meeting. I'd like to acknowledge Chair Tam and the presence of Representative Todd and Representative Holt. Thank you for being here. Be patient with me as I announce our House rules. To allow as many people to testify as possible, there will be 2-minute time limit per testifier. Because morning hearings must adjourn prior to the noon floor session, not all testifiers may have the opportunity to testify. In that event, please know that your written testimony will be considered by the committee. Please keep yourself muted and your video off while waiting to testify and after your testimony is complete. The Zoom chat function will allow you to chat with the technical staff only. Please use the chat only for technical issues. If you are disconnected unexpectedly, you may attempt to rejoin the meeting. If disconnected while presenting testimony, you may be allowed to continue if time permits. Please note the House is not responsible for any bad internet connections on the testifier's end. In the event of a network failure, it may be necessary to reschedule the hearing or schedule a meeting for decision-making. In that case, an appropriate notice will be posted. Please avoid using any trademarked or copyrighted images. Please refrain from profanity or uncivil behavior. Such behavior may be grounds for removal from the hearing without the ability to rejoin. Thank you. First off, we have on our agenda HCR 102 and HR 98, strongly urging the Real Estate Commission to allow for the administration of the real estate salesperson examination in the Japanese language for purposes of issuing a full real estate salesperson license limited to the sale of timeshare products in Hawaii, to promote the sale of these products to Japanese-speaking visitors and enhance Japan's involvement in and support of Hawaii's tourism industry. Right now, we'll be taking testimony. First registered testifier, we have Real Estate Commission in person. Thank you. Next, we have the American Resort Development in support.
Good morning, Vice Chair, Chair. My name is Linda Rodriguez, and I'm testifying on behalf of the American Resort Development Association. We are the trade association supporting the timeshare industry. I am strongly supporting HCR 102, urging the Real Estate Commission to be able to administer the real estate exam in Japanese. We believe that this would have a very positive impact on tourism from Japan to Hawaii, a big opportunity for us in the years to come, as well as empowering our residents here to be able to flourish in the real estate industry and be able to be successful as they assimilate into our community. First, I'd like to point out that the timeshare industry has over 98 resorts and 15,000 units in the state of Hawaii. One of the things that we are asking is that the exam be translated into Japanese so that we can increase the passage rate for those that are taking the exam. I want to be very clear that we are not asking that the educational programs and the continuing educational programs be translated into Japanese or administered into Japanese. We simply want to create an accommodation for those that are native-speaking Japanese residents here in Hawaii so that they have an option to take the exam in either English or Japanese so that they don't have to take the exam 4 or 5 times, which is what's happening today. Now, the timeshare industry has been very resilient. Coming out of COVID and as well as the Maui wildfires, we are now experiencing about 90% occupancy rates throughout the state. One of the things that I can say is that the Japanese travelers love their timeshares here. They're very committed to using them, and despite the fact that we're seeing softer occupancy and arrivals from Japan to Hawaii, that is not the case with timeshare. Actually, we are about 90% to our 2019 numbers. In addition to this, I just wanted to share that The industry is a strong supporter of this. We have considered this carefully and are willing to invest in the cost that it's going to take to translate the exam. We understand that the opposition is concerned about consumer complaints. I can share with you that consumer complaints and the consumer rights in Japan are taken very seriously, and there is an agency there that can support any of the complaints and work with the major developers the way we do today. I'll stop there. Any questions?
Thank you for your testimony. We'll take questions after
Okay, thank you.
all the testifiers. Thank you. And on Zoom, we have registered testifier in support from Hilton Grand Vacation.
Yes, good morning, Chair Tam, Vice Chair Temple. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to speak in regards to this very important bill. This is for HCR 102. My name is David Watanabe. I was the former Senior Director of Sales for the Japanese and Korean teams prior to COVID. Right now, I took a different role as an operations manager / broker in charge for Hilton Grand Vacations here in Hawaii. I also do support this initiative. The reason why I say this is pre-COVID, we had many Japanese-speaking employees in Hawaii. During COVID, due to not having jobs, especially for the Japanese market, many of them moved back to Japan. And I'm thinking it's not only in our industry but other industries as well. Having this bill passed, I believe that would entice more people, more professional, top talent people in Japan to actually get their real estate license and return to Hawaii, while also enticing people that already live here to test and be more confident in passing the exam. Japanese people, just like Linda said, when they come to Hawaii, they're very respectful about the Hawaii culture. They want to learn more. I believe if you go to like the farmers market, you're going to see them supporting local businesses. Timeshare rooms range from studios to 1-bedroom to 2-bedroom to even 3-bedroom units, and they tend to bring a lot of their friends and families to Hawaii along with their ownership, which will then also increase the amount of visitors that we have coming back to the States in the future. So I am 100% in support of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. That is all that we have as for registered testifiers. Is there anyone in the audience who's wishing to testify? Anyone on Zoom? Seeing none, we're going to move on to our next item on the agenda. We're going to be hearing HCR 142 and, oh, sorry. Sorry. Members, any questions? Seeing none, moving on to the next item on the agenda. Next, we have HCR 142 and HR 136. This is urging the Hawaii Tourism Authority and the Department of Transportation to expand the Kahea Airport Greeting Program to display keiki art in all neighbor island airports. We have one testifier in support, Hawaii Tourism Authority.
Hi, aloha.
Sorry, offering comments.
Offering comments, yes. Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Caroline Anderson, Interim Chief Administrative Officer, and we offer comments and stand on our written testimony. Thank you.
Thank you. We have no further registered testifiers. Do we have anyone in the audience wanting to testify? Anyone on Zoom? Seeing none, let's move on to, members, any questions? Seeing none, moving on to our last measure on the agenda. HCR 143 and HR 137, strongly urging the Hawaii Tourism Authority to require all transient accommodation to incorporate the Pono Pledge as a requirement for guest check-in. We have one registered testifier with comments, Hawaii Tourism Authority. Thank you. There are no further registered testifiers. Anyone in person wanting to testify? Anyone on Zoom? Seeing none, members, any questions? Seeing none, we are going to go into a short recess into decision-making. Recess. Thank you, members and audience. We are reconvening our hearing on the House Committee on Tourism. Today is Thursday, March 20th, 2025, here at room 423. First, we have HCR 102 and HR 98. Vice Chair's recommendation is to pass as is. Members, any questions or comments? Seeing none, Chair for the vote.
Thank you, members. We'll be voting on HCR 102 and HR 98 together. Vice Chair's recommendation is to pass unamended. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. Rep. Holt. Aye. Rep. Hussey is excused. Rep. Iligan.
Aye.
Rep. Todd.
Aye.
Rep. Matsumoto. Excuse. Vice Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Moving on, voting on HCR 142 and HR 136. Chair's recommendation is to pass as is. Members, any comments or questions? Seeing none, Chair for the vote. HCR 142.
Voting on HCR 142 and HR 136. We'll be voting on these together. Chair's recommendation is to pass unamended. And noting the presence of Rep. Hussey, is there anyone voting with reservations? Anyone voting no? Chair, your recommendation is adopted. And the excused absence of Rep. Matsumoto, who will be excused for the rest of the agenda.
Thank you, Chair. Last, we are voting on HCR 143 and HR 137. Vice Chair's recommendation is to pass this with a HD1. In this reso, we are going to change the language from having require to encourage. Members, any comments or questions? Seeing none, chair for the vote.
Voting on HCR 143 and HR 137 together, Chair's recommendation is to pass as an HD1. Any members voting with reservations? Any members voting no? Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Great. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, members. Appreciate y'all. Thank you. The hearing is adjourned.
All right, reconvening this morning's joint hearing for the Committee on Tourism and Committee on Water and Land for the purposes of this decision making for a few bills. Today is March 20th, 2025. Time is 10 a.m. here in conference room 423. First up, we have Senate Bill 1396 relating to economic development. It amends the transient accommodations tax rates beginning on January 1st, 2027, beginning January 1st, 2020. Requires $20 transient accommodation tax being levied per night for each furnishing of transient accommodations in exchange of points, miles, and other amounts provided through a membership, loyalty, or rewards program. Appropriates funds to DLNR for protection, management, and restoration of states' natural resources effective January 1st, 2000. Thank you for your indulgence this morning for this bill. Chair's recommendation is that we pass this out as an HD2. We're going to amend the preamble to include cruise ships and passengers. Then we're going to amend the definition of transient accommodations to include cruise ships and cruise ship cabins. We're going to delete lines 7 to 17 on page 8, dealing with the points and the miles. And we're going to add a new section to the bill that includes cruise ships, so they are now going to be subjected to the TAT. And the TAT will be off of their docking fees. In section 3, we're going to add in environmental stewardship, climate and hazard mitigation, and sustainable tourism to what is already existing language in the HD1. Members, any discussion, questions, comments? Rep. Yuamoto.
Thank you. Can you tell me, did you increase the tax revenue with your changes or decrease it from the previous HD1? Your estimation?
DOTAX has given some numbers off of it. They don't have the numbers off of how much it would cost if we do it for points, but I'm gonna assume that since we're putting the TAT on docking fees, we will generate revenue off of that.
But I guess less than what we would have under the HD1?
Again, that's a DOTAX question. I don't know if they have that estimate. So it's one number that we have and the other number we don't know.
Okay, thank you. Oh, more money?
I'm sorry, Chair.
Yes.
You're
Rep. Shimizu.
You're taking off the $20 off the points and miles, and then you're applying that to the cruise ships and the passengers? Or is the $20 just out?
$20 out.
Okay.
And the new section is the cruise ships.
Okay, got it.
So maybe just for the edification of the committee, one of the conversations, the industry, or the evolution of the bill, is that they believe that they are already assessing TAT on those rewards points. So the $20 fee would not necessarily accomplish what we were trying to accomplish. So in theory, by applying this other tax, we would collect revenue that we're not currently collecting, whereas the $20 may not have actually collected very much at all. That's the assessment.
Yeah, and it's in their the American Lodging Hotel Alliance's testimony that they mentioned that.
I mean, but it wasn't accurate. I'm just saying that what they stated, I mean, just because somebody purchased a room before and that's why they have bonus points or these reward loyalty points, that wasn't, I mean, it's not like it is a value they're getting. So I read their testimony and I didn't find it convincing, but whatever. Okay.
Well, your
I'm still
conscience.
okay. Yeah, I'm still okay.
Members, any other comments, questions, discussion? Seeing none. Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on SB 139 SD3 HD1, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. Representative Holt? Excused. Representative Hussey?
Yes.
Representative Ilagan?
Aye.
Thank you. Representative Todd?
Aye.
Thank you. Representative Matsumoto? Excused. Chair, your measure is adopted.
Thank you.
Oh, wait, my turn.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Okay. Waterland, same recommendation.
Voting on SB 1396, SD3, HD1. Recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. Representative Bellotti?
Aye.
Representative Ichiyama? Representative Iwamoto?
Aye.
Representative Morikawa is excused. Representative Poi Poi? Representative Woodson is excused. Representative Shimizu? With reservations. Representative Souza?
Aye.
Thank you. Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Moving on to Senate Bill, our last item, Senate Bill 439 SD1 relating to fees requires the Board of Land and Natural Resources to adopt rules to impose user fees and to apply solely to non-residents visiting state parks and trails as selected by the board. Chair's recommendation is that we pass this out as an HD1. What we're going to do is to add in language to the bill that allows DLNR to consider seasonal pricing for their trails and parks. I know that they're trying to do that right now, but hopefully this language will provide them cover. And we're going to defect the date to 3000. Members, any discussion or comments or questions? Oh, do we have tech amendments? And tech amendments, just in case. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, Vice Chair for the vote.
Voting on SB 439 SD1, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments, noting the excused absences of the previously mentioned representatives. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. Representative Hussey.
Aye.
Representative Ilagan.
Aye.
Representative Todd. Chair, your measure is adopted.
Committee on Water, Land, same recommendation.
Voting on SB 439 SD1, recommendation is to pass with amendments, noting the excused absence of Representative Morikawa and Woodson. Anyone voting with reservations or noes, all members present. Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. This hearing is adjourned.